Morning, everybody. It's the 14th of July. We are Signal Centre Talking Ball. I'm Joe Neighbour, joined by Steve O'Hare. Morning, Steve.
Morning, mate. All right.
Yeah, not bad, thanks. The fog is starting to clear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from the weekend.
All right. So, yeah, I think it's because I've had a few more years' experience of it. I'm sort of like a little bit more resilient, Joe.
Yeah,
I was vaccinated against poor football back in 2010. I think it was then when we failed to make the
Germany.
Euros.
Oh, yeah, was that
No,
it?
I
Germany
think it was.
2010?
There
No,
was no
that was
Ukraine. We drew.
2006.
Did we draw 2-2 with them or something? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember now.
Yeah,
But the
okay.
vaccination wiped my memory, sort of like, or made my memory sort of like forget quicker. So that's
Yeah,
good.
Arsenal were back in pre-season action yesterday. That went well.
Wow, already?
Not. Yeah, played against Hibernian, lost 2-1.
Yeah, but I mean, who would have been there? Hardly.
Aubameyang was playing.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
dear.
horrendous goalkeeper error to start
Oh,
with.
really?
Yeah, Williams playing as well. Pepe, Smith
Oh, they
Rowe.
had some decent players there.
Yeah, well, I have to go and sign some of those Hibs players.
Yeah, why not?
Anyway, before I get too bogged down with and upset about that, let's crack on with what's in the news today. So, infection rates on the rise across Europe as restrictions are being eased. The Delta variant now is the more dominant strain, it would appear. The French government have attributed more than 60% of new infections to the variant on Tuesday. We've also seen the Netherlands log a six-fold increase in cases during the week that ended yesterday. The Prime Minister has apologised for an error in judgment in easing restrictions too early, but the UK government remains on course to ease remaining restrictions in England on Monday. Make of that what you will. We've got to
Mm,
get on with it, I guess. We're all
yeah,
vaccinated and
yeah. I think so. If it's something like 85% of the adult population are vaccinated now, something like that. I think I saw
yeah, and they're
yesterday.
freely available everywhere, aren't they? I think they've got these
Yeah,
pop-up places doing sweep up jobs and
yeah.
Yeah, so ECB, they're meeting today to decide whether or not to move ahead with the creation of a digital euro. It will be the next step in an exploratory phase by the ECB President Christine Lagarde, who said it could take about 2 years, resulting in a virtual currency in the euro area citizens' figurative hands by the middle of the decade. Research and officials remark a payment system that is, or suggested they're going to create a payment system that is fast, easy to use, secure, and crucially for Lagarde, who has lambasted private crypto assets in the past, not Bitcoin. So, this comes back to what we said before, Steve. You believe crypto is the future, but not necessarily Bitcoin. And I think this may be kind of the first step with a government sort of creating their own version of it.
Yeah, exactly. I was having a chat this morning with Cameron and just sort of like saying if I wish I could really understand the Bitcoin value. Obviously, a lot of it gets sold on the fact that there's a limited supply of it. So when there's a limited supply of it, and say it's the number one currency that everyone uses across the globe, then what happens when the limited supply is out there and there's nothing else? The value of it goes up, and then you've just got an inflationary currency you're trading with, and what if you haven't got any Bitcoin?
How do you
Have
do it in
you?
quantitative easing?
Yeah. So it's like go down the shop to say, oh, that's half a Bitcoin, or that's a quarter of a Bitcoin, or that's whatever, using fractions and old numbers. Obviously decimalization on that. So yeah, I'm still sort of like I still need someone to explain to me. I mean,
So
I'll
maybe
just
the
look at.
value in Bitcoin is that it's led the way for these other currencies to potentially emerge and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is
created
great.
the
But
backbone for it with the blockchain technology
yeah, but then I
rather than
would
it
be
being.
yeah, I'd be very concerned if I had a load of them and was sitting there closing my eyes, wishing the price would go up. It's sort of like, for me, it doesn't
Well,
work.
you
I'm
need
just
to
looking at
double
it
now to get back to where it was, don't you?
yeah. I'm just looking at it just from a technical point of view on the chart wise. It sort of doesn't look very good at all. So
Right, we'll come on to that shortly. So just a couple of other headlines to round up. The European Union is set to also transform every corner of its economy, from how people heat their homes to the cars they drive. The bloc is going to use a massive overhaul of rules to position itself as a global leader on climate change as well. Every industry will be forced to accelerate its shift away from fossil fuels in order to cut pollution by at least 55%. by 2030. That's according to proposals that are being unveiled today. This European Union place sounds like a decent place to live, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think
almost.
I'd like to be a part of that, almost.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why we don't look at it. Really strange.
Yeah.
Let's see what it's like in a few years' time.
Indeed. Well, they'll be using cryptos, and they'll be, cut greenhouse gases to nothing, not using
Yeah,
fossil fuels. Sounds awesome.
yeah.
Um, okay, so stocks were a little bit lower this morning. I think there's been quite a volatile move in the last hour or so since they've opened, but seems to be a fair amount of things on the go today, which we'll come on to shortly on the charts. Just a quick one. From the earnings season that started yesterday with a little bit of a whimper. Obviously, we had the inflation number yesterday, which came in much higher than expected. That came in at, was it 5.4%?
Yeah.
Which is well above what was expected. We've got the UK CPI, which I think is already out this morning, Steve. I don't know if you've seen that. We've got US PPI due out at 1:30 today, but yesterday we had Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan both beat analyst estimates, but their stocks both slid. Now that may be due to the fact that we've reached a sort of mass expansion phase on equities, and that it's just come to a point where it's going to be so hard for them to actually beat expectations and do enough to keep investors at the table. So,
Yeah.
potentially a bit of caution, I think, could be required. Okay, let's get stuck into some charts. Where do you want to lead us first, Steve?
Well, we'll take a look at oil. Obviously, oil will be busy today. We've got the EIA's weekly report later. And obviously, we've got a situation there where the OPEC plus nations want to raise production by 400,000 barrels per day, and it is being fought over at the moment. So, increasing oil production would result in a sort of like lower prices. But there's obviously a lot out there that want to keep the prices high. Weekly chart, we're still in this fifth wave, looking for a correction. We had a hanging man type doji style candle last week, which hit the resistance band that we've got just below 76.80, and this week it's still holding on to that level. So it may not have finished yet, so be aware of that. We had this is a sort of correction we had. We can see that sort of like bearish outside candle led to a bit of a correction lower, but it has fought back this week, so we have to respect that. Maybe it's not the end of the fifth wave yet. On the 4-hour chart, I'll take a little bit of a look at the nearer term levels. Obviously, we've got the Ichimoku cloud, which is an indicator which I use a lot, and prices are seesawing through it. We haven't got a real direction on there on the 4-hour chart. We obviously went with the trend on this. This keeps you in the trade for longer, and really nice move higher. And then last week broke back below it, and it's challenged the cloud, which then becomes quite thin. So there's less resistance, and we've managed to get above this quite important. We saw an ABC correction, quite important resistance, which was the sort of like top of the B wave, 74.29. We're trading just above it at the moment, 74.46. 74.90 was yesterday's high. So really, we need to get above there, close above there on the 4-hour chart to challenge the 76.35. Obviously, look out later for the EIA figures. That will have some sort of impact. On gold, we're in this bearish channel, but it's part of a bigger bullish flag. So, and we seem to have sort of steadied the ship around about 1750 as far as this is concerned, and look to be heading higher. On the daily chart, it's been constructive within this Ichimoku cloud. So you tend to get a lot of volatility when prices move to the cloud. Let's get rid of a few of the older things we've got. And you can see we've had spikes in both directions, really. So really challenging the sort of like this channel that we're in. And again, let's look at the 4-hour chart to give a bit more clarity. This is the channel we're in. 1790 is the low. 18.38 is the high. Let's just highlight this low here. You can actually say that that price is a low, 17.90.20. Reacted really nicely off the cloud here, and again yesterday stalled in front of it and bullish engulfed the previous swing down calendar. So that negative news was quickly retraced over that 4-hour time frame. So really, for me, it does still feel like if we go back to here, this was resistance, which has now turned into support here. So we seem to be above the 1790, and while we're above there, I'm positive on the price action here. Really need to get a clean break of the 1820 level, and 1845 I think will be the next test, which was a previous swing low support. That will now turn into resistance. So that's gold. Quick look at cryptocurrency. Oh, we're broken through the 3200 level. I'll keep on the 4-hour chart. You know my weekly chart looks horrendous for gold. Sorry, for Bitcoin. Yeah, so really challenging the support which has been in place since the 1st of July, or really since we broke up at the end of June. 26th of June was the swing low that we saw down around about 30,000, and yeah, this is quite a bearish turnaround. Again, the cloud acted as resistance. We had this potential downward trending resistance line. You really need a third point to confirm a resistance line, and we've got some horizontal resistance, so that will also act as a blocker for any rallies. So yeah, it doesn't look great at all. Again, doesn't feel like I mean, you've got the, it's one of those assets which it's naturally will be bid, people buying it. So, but there's no real speculators out there selling it. So it should sort of like, it's a lot more difficult to break down. However, let's take a quick look at the daily chart to sort of see where the expectation is. It's really an Elliott wave expectation. Down, fourth wave. This is a correction. It's a bit elongated for my liking. I wish it was a bit quicker. 28,788 should see a move down to around about 20,000 on that. Indices now. Let's take a look at those bad boys. Oh, looks a bit messy. Let's try and make some sense of it and stop these notifications. Yeah, weekly chart, bit of an ending wedge ish. We could really have a some sort of supportive line coming up here. We've got 3 points there, maybe 4 points. So really looking for a break of this 69.60 support here to sort of like see any move lower. The 4-hour chart, as I say, it's a little bit messy. Let's get rid of that one. Actually, let me shut down the cloud for a second, which will give us a little bit more clarity. Around 71.50, we've got these lower highs coming in, and again, negative price action this morning. You were mentioning how sort of like individual stocks are performing, Joe, and yeah, the valuations are pretty high on everything at the moment, so not surprising to see this sort of correction. I think this was my gun to head challenge or gun to head trade idea from yesterday. We've seen this this resistance line around about 15,800, got up to 16 on there, and we've seen negative price action on the 4-hour chart since then, and even a break lower this morning on the hourly chart. This, you can see spikes in both directions. So the 8 o'clock is always quite a volatile time in when the indices open up. How's China doing? China 50 is the one that is the concern for me, and we are looking at breaking down really below 16,440. We're only 100 points away from that now. That could be a bit of a catalyst for me. A break below there could drag the others lower. The US still seems resilient. NASDAQ all-time high again this week. So, but they are running out of steam a little bit. Momentum isn't great. You can see the MACD moving lower. That indicates maybe bearish divergence, I suppose. Yeah, looking for the end of the 5th wave. We've got a big first wave, decent sized second wave, and the 5th wave should be a lot shorter than that. So that could be, but it seems like we're saying it every week, and it kicks on again. We thought it was the sort of like end here and here, and it's pushed higher. Yeah, Yeah, don't know what to say about it really. Anyway, then maybe the FX makes sense, Joe.
Well, yeah, maybe. But that how many weeks in a row is that of gains on the
Yeah, that's not
Nasdaq?
bad. Oh, it's nearly 9, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can't get any more than that. It's
So
impossible, apparently.
that seems pretty mad, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And as you say, that flattening momentum as well doesn't particularly bode well. But from your count that you've done there, looks like we're maybe in the final throes of it anyway.
Yeah, it does look like it. But
I
I
just
feel a
can't
bit.
understand why you'd want to buy that. I know obviously this trend is super strong, but piling in here doesn't feel right, does it?
No, it feels a little bit like when Bitcoin was 65,000.
Yeah.
That halved in value.
Yeah. Well, I
Well,
can't see
more.
that happening with this, but who knows?
Who knows?
Okay, let's have a look at FX then. So, daily chart, dollar index, strong move to the upside yesterday on the back of this inflation number that came out of the States. 5.4%, which was ahead of expectations. So trying to get back above this swing high that we posted on the 7th of July. So that was a new closing high, actually, for the dollar index, closed at the highest level since, got to go all the way back here, April earlier this year. So we're getting closer to filling this gap, which is the red line at 93.02. Looks pretty, good to go and do that now, I think. And then the big level is this 93.43 level, which just sort of flicking back to the weekly chart. And why that's relevant, we have a double bottom pattern on the verge of completion at that level. So break above 93.43. We've got these two lows down here, which confirms that double bottom. We can measure the move up to this level here, which is at 97.66, and it's also a 61.8 fib level from these highs here down to these lows that we posted in January. So a nice sort of confluence of zones and levels to target up there. So looking good for dollar index, certainly from my perspective at the moment. How does that look for euro dollar? Well, on the weekly, it's sort of getting close to this this neckline. If I just go back to my daily chart, then you can see what I'm seeing here. This is the head and shoulders top pattern that I've been, I guess, speculatively considering was going to, potentially form, and it looks like it's there really. We're on that neckline. We've closed very much in the red yesterday. Volumes weren't particularly supportive of the selling, which I guess would be one sort of particular thing to of concern maybe as to why it might not happen straight away. But we've closed bang on this level here at 1783, which for me is the neckline of this head and shoulders top. So I think this could create some sort of sharp selling potentially. We may get a little bit of a bounce before a sell-off, but it doesn't look good for that, if I'm totally honest. And the measured move of this is a target down here at 110.56. So some considerable downside potential on euro dollar, and obviously that will pretty much marry up with this dollar strength that we're talking about. So interesting things occurring for me. If we look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar, that's still holding support here. So this is considered a riskier currency, but seems to be doing a pretty good job of defending this level, despite the dollar strength. So that's quite interesting. I heard some murmurs on Twitter that they could be about to enter another full lockdown because of this Delta variant. So we'll wait and see if that has any impact on the currency at all. Similar, well, not quite a similar situation for Aussie. That's not doing as well. For me, this has already completed the head and shoulders top. Again, a bit of sort of two-way price action in here, bit confusing. But I think if we break down below this 74.08, then we're expecting a continuation lower, and the measured move on this is down at 70.57. If we look at cable, not really much going on here. It's sort of range bound, choppy, not really much of an opportunity to trade it in either direction, certainly from my perspective. So I'd be wary about that if you are, if that is one of your favorites typically. Not really much going on there for me. Euro yen, since we've broken out of this channel, we've sort of seen a slip to the downside. We seem to have found some support here at around about 130.00. Sorry, 130.00. I think if that breaks, then we're looking for lower prices, and clearly the momentum is on the bearish side for me on that one at the moment. What else should we look at? Dollar CAD with oil numbers out today, looking pretty strong. Broken out of this big channel, so for me it's correcting higher. We've got some big levels to target up here at 126.47. If that breaks, then arguably we formed a decent looking bottom pattern and can look for higher prices over the short to medium term. Pretty much it for me on the FX side of things. There are some interesting bits happening, some potentially big changes in trends as well. So hopefully some opportunities will arise from that if you are looking at FX pairs. Okay, onto the gun to the head stuff from yesterday. Steve, unbelievably, with the DAX, normally one of the most volatile out there. You lost 0.07R on that one. You were down 3.5 ticks from where you sold it yesterday. I don't know if you've ever seen that before on the DAX.
No, it didn't move against. No, it's funny. It didn't move at all yesterday, did it?
No.
It had a sort of like something like a 40, 50 point range. Yeah, which is a bit unusual.
Mad.
I think when I was looking at the obviously NASDAQ pushing higher, the US coming in, and they sort of seem to want to go higher. I think that's what maybe held the DAX up. So if we do get some form of correction over there, we'll see that have it with a really aggressive downward move.
Yeah, okay. I had a short on Euro Yen, and that worked out quite nicely. 1.54R on the side at the close. So all in all, we did a pretty decent job yesterday, put some money back in the pot, and we get to go again today. So anything you fancy?
Well, not really. Gold, I think, is potentially going higher. My long-term view is obviously higher. Short-term view is trading in this range. There is a potential for maybe setting a short here and having this really tight stop above 1818. That'll give you good risk reward because of the downside is potentially down to 1790. So I'll avoid that. Oil continues on this merry road, but EIA figures out this afternoon, so that could be pretty volatile. If anything, it does feel like it is moving higher, but it just feels like there's quite a lot of risk to the downside also, because on the longer term chart I'm looking for this correction, so I'll avoid those two. Really, I've got to go Bitcoin, haven't I? I can't not go Bitcoin. I've got to sell that bad boy. Sorry, all you Bitcoin fans. Looking at the hourly chart, actually, just a bit of a little here, a little bit of a bearish flag, potentially. Nothing to get too excited about. But that's bearish flag, and that should lead to a, you can take the measured move maybe from there. Takes the measured move down to 31,000, so maybe bad shout, but it'll be a really high risk trade idea. So getting short here, and I'll have the tight stop above 32,000. $32,056. Targeting a, oh, let's get a bigger move out of that. What's the matter with you? I like to have round numbers. Let's go there. That's 5 to 1 risk reward. Getting short here. 31,936. Stop at 32,056. Targeting 31,336. That's
Nice.
me.
Okay. I am just having a flick through our confidence scores, actually, Steve, just to try and get a bit of a steer on.
I tried to share that yesterday, but I failed miserably. Didn't share my chart until I realised afterwards. Yeah, have a look. Which ones are good?
Well, buying the American indices is obviously a pretty good shout, despite us both feeling that they're probably a little bit overdone, but well, not a little bit, massively amount overdone. So don't really like the looks of the New Zealand currencies, given that they've had a big move today. But
Yeah, they have, haven't they? Yeah, got triggered on all those overnight.
what was it I was fancying? I think I was going to go with euro dollar, which doesn't feel great either. No, okay, I'm going to go with New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen.
New
From
Zealand
a
dollar,
confidence
Japanese yen.
perspective, it's 40% in favour of us making some money on that today. Well, let's have a look. It's up 0.9% today on an intraday basis. Looking at what it's done over the last hour, it's formed a bit of an engulfing candle there into a nice bespoke level of resistance that I've got on my chart and sort of key levels that I look for. Let's have a look on it from a fib perspective to see if anything marries up there. Just in front of a 61.8. So I'm going to sell that now. Currently at 77.47. Going to put my stop loss there. 40 ticks. 77.87. Target and move back down to these swing lows. 3.75R.
So it's pretty much our intraday trade idea in.
Is that the same sort of levels? Is it?
Yeah. If you see this one here.
77.47. So 77.42.
Yeah. So that's triggered overnight.
Stop.
At 3 o'clock this morning, actually. Confidence was 60% on that.
Yeah, so the sentiment's changed to 50-50.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. Me and the analysts are thinking the same thing on that one. Yeah.
Look at that.
Good teachers. Right. So let's go with that then. Selling New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. Okay. So in terms of news today, let's have a quick look. We've got US PPI, which is due out at 1:30. We've got a Bank of Canada decision at 3 p.m. No change in rates expected from 0.25%. Steve mentioned we've got the oil inventories, the EIA crude inventories number at 3:30. But also don't forget we've got earnings season up and running now as well. So what have we got out today? In the UK, we had updates from Tullow Oil and Barrett Developments. But in America, we have Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo. So a bit of a bumper day for US banks. So that could potentially create some volatility, maybe. But I guess most people will be waiting for these tech names because that's where all the action seems to be concentrated.
Brilliant.
Cool. Right. We're all done, Steve. Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah. Good luck,
we'll
everyone.
Back tomorrow morning.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Bye-bye.